In August, I made a TBR jar with the goal of using it once a month to pull one random book that I have to read that month, chosen by the jar, and it's time to pull the September book. I love watching videos where people choose their TBR based on all sorts of fun games, like board games and card games or a jar, things like that. However, I think I want to start small and just use the jar. In here, I have a bunch of physical book titles as well as some generic paper that I have numbered and have an associated reading prompt. So either I will get a title or I will get some sort of fun prompt that lets me have a little bit of choice in the matter. So first I'm going to choose the book, then I'm going to take you with me over the next week or so while I set out to read it. September has been a weird month for me. I have been super busy in every single area of my life, so my reading time has been a little strange. All month I've been stopping and starting and reading multiple things at once, and I actually have a big trip coming up in a couple of days, so the month will be over before I'm back, so I feel like right now is the time to strike while the iron is hot and I have some good momentum. So let's choose a book, and then we gotta get out of here because I'm going to my friend's birthday party where we are dyeing fabric. It's a little craft party. I'm really excited. It sounds so fun. And then it's football all day, which seems like the perfect time to get started reading. Okay, I've talked enough. Let's actually choose the book that I will be reading in September. Now, I think that this is too tight in here to really give every book a fair shot. So I've got a giant bowl. Now that seems nice and fair. All right, let's do it. Not another love song. I got this like the week it came out, and for some reason just never got around to it. So I'm really excited to read this. One of my fellow book friends just read it and loved it. Here's her review. So I am even more excited to get to this now. The jar did well. End of a crazy workday. I'm just now coming up for air. It's almost 6 o'clock. I am late to a book club, and I made it another 100 pages into Not Another Love Song. Yeah. And I have to give you my thoughts, but it's gonna have to be later because I am really late and I think I'm gonna get rained on, and I'm taking the bike today, so. I am starting to feel pretty good about getting this finished tomorrow, but there is just so much stuff I have to do before we leave for our trip, so wish me luck. Look, it's fall. I'm gonna be so late, oh my gosh.
No, I have a big problem with face huggers, so that was triggering some trauma for me.
Okay, so the good news is that I finished the book and I loved it. It was so fun. I love Raylo every single time. However, the bad news is I'm really bad at time management, and it is already the morning of my long camping trip. So the moto camping kickstands up. Crew leaves in 20 minutes. I've been up for 2 hours and I just haven't had time to like wrap up my thoughts and tell you sort of anything about the book. So I'm gonna go on this moto camping trip, and then when I get back, I'm gonna sit down and tell you my thoughts and more about the book. So stay tuned. Wish me luck. I've never done anything quite this extreme. I'm the only girl on our team. Since we last chatted, a lot has happened. I've been very busy. Life has been very full, and I have been relatively burnt out, and I haven't picked up my camera to film very much. I've read a lot, including finishing Not Another Love Song, and I just haven't checked back in and told you anything about it. Since then, I've gone on 2 moto camping trips, the first of which was a very big moto camping rally that I went on. The whole thing was 936-mile round trip over the course of 4 days, and the whole thing was an emotional roller coaster. It was really cool. I feel very accomplished, but I still feel extremely tired. There was a scavenger hunt component element to it, and the people on my team were extremely competitive and ended up scoring us 4th place. So that's cool. We got this really neat plaque trophy thing that is pretty fun. Then highlight of all highlights, I got to see Chappell Roan in concert, and it was absolutely incredible. Then after that, I went on another motocamping adventure. This time the total round trip was only 384 miles. But the cool thing about this one is that it was for women only. So it was an adventure and dual sport ride that was 100% women. So that was really cool, and it was my first time actually getting to meet a lot of other women in the sport, and yeah, it was really neat. On top of that, the busy season in my job is fast approaching, so we have been ramping up work, and I just have been really preserving my time to read instead of create content. And as a newer content creator, I'm still feeling out what a good cadence of creating content looks like, and it's been a really fun journey, but I incidentally took a little bit of a break. So I'm back. I've got energy again. For instance, I've been slowly but surely editing an autumn TBR video that I filmed back in August, and it is now almost halfway through October, and I just kind of missed the boat with that one. I completely failed to upload my August TBR to TikTok. Filmed it, just never got to edit it or put it up. So when I sat down to see if I had enough footage to put together a really compelling September TBR reading vlog, I realized as well that the entire update that I gave you at the midway point, like a 15-minute sit-down update, no audio, just the mic is off. So we're learning together. So yeah, that was 3 weeks ago, and I have no idea what I said or what my update was. So what I think we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you an update now that 3 weeks have passed and I have read this and I liked it and I can tell you what I thought. And then we're gonna dive right into the October TBR jar pick and take you along for a little reading vlog for the weekend. It is a 3-day weekend, and I think it's a get my life in order reset weekend for me. I have a fun, chill couple of days planned, and I plan on knocking out a few books and telling you about them. And one of them will come from the jar. But first, let's just have a little do-over, and I'm gonna tell you about Not Another Love Song, because that is what I initially set out to read and review a long time ago. This is the second book that I have read by Miss Julie Soto. The first one is Forget Me Not, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was steamy and hot and slow burn. Gwen and Xander are both in the same orchestra. However, Xander is also like a big cello pop star sort of celebrity icon. In my head, the band that he's a part of sort of morphed from like Lindsey Sterling to Pentatonics to postmodern jukebox, but like instrumental covers of classic rock or punk rock songs. Does that make sense? I could totally be inventing that. It has been 3 weeks since I read it, but honestly, the music sounded like my nerdy, drama-loving little high school heart's dream. And we have to address the Raylo in the room, in that this is, yet again, a repackaged Raylo fanfic. He is tall, dark, brooding, and kind of hostile. Meanwhile, Gwen is spunky and plucky and full of natural talent. And let me tell you, I am not usually one to care about this, but this one was steamy. This one was hot. For me, this hit all the right marks. I love repackaged Raylo. I love it every time. I enjoy Rivals to Lovers. I love a slow burn, and this is very tense slow burn. I also always appreciate it when it's a he falls first romance, and this one is. For me, this hit all the right notes. Pun intended. It's artsy, it's brooding, it's emotional, and again, dual POV Raylo fanfic always works for me. What I like about the two novels I've read by Julie Soto so far is that they're not just steamy and sexy and fun, they actually have really interesting plots. They actually have really interesting story, which, let's be clear, I weight a little lower in romance. That's just the facts. But this one has characters that are facing insecurity and self-doubt and dealing with the pressures of fame and other people's expectations. And they're confronted with the price of pursuing their passion. Meanwhile, sparks are flying as their rivalry turns into chemistry. And here we have a love song, a love letter to music, to love, and to lost souls. If you're a fan of an intense romance wrapped in metaphors with a little something more than just a love story, full of tension that builds like a crescendo, if you will, that is as captivating as the music that it centers, then this one is for you. There were only a couple of moments in this that I had a moment where I was like, this doesn't really feel realistic, but ultimately, as somebody with zero musical background, that's just none of my business. If you, however, are a band nerd or have ever been part of an orchestra, there will be probably a few parts that you might roll your eyes at. Just a fair warning. I don't know much, but I do know that being a lifelong violin player does not mean that you can just pick up a cello and be incredible at it after maybe picking it up once, like a decade before. But again, that is just none of my business. You know? Anyway, 2 out of 2 times this author's work has worked for me, and I will probably buy her next one as well. Despite the fact that my September was a wild, crazy time, I really enjoyed this, and it definitely held my attention when it was kind of hard to do that. So thanks, TBR Jar. This was definitely a win. For my October TBR Jar, I'm kind of thinking about cheating. Let me explain. There are some books in here that just don't feel fall. I also have more books I need to make because I have obtained more books since I first put this together in August. I'm considering taking out the books that don't feel like fall so that I can guarantee I get either a prompt or a fall book. Maybe, I don't know. Should I take out the books from my October TBR Jar that don't feel like fall, or should I draw from all of them?
Honestly, you should do whatever you're excited to do.
I've decided. Here's what I'm gonna do. I have isolated just the prompts, no actual book titles. That feels fun. Yeah, that feels fun. Let's do it. Okay, here we go. This is my favorite part. We have number 15. A book whose name begins with the letter B. Let's go to the TBR, shall we? Okay, let's go. Okay, full disclosure, I immediately thought of the book that I'm probably going to choose, but now I'm just curious how many books on my TBR actually begin with the letter B, because now I'm just curious, it can't be that many. I'm immediately humbled. There are actually quite a few. These are all the books on my TBR that the title begins with a B. No the, just begins with the letter B. Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. Bitter, the prequel to Pet, which is one of the best books I have ever read. Bird by Bird. I hear that this is essential, required reading for anyone aspiring to be a better writer. Bookshops and Bone Dust, the sequel to Legends and Lattes. Black Swans by Eve Babbitts. Before I Let Go, which is very universally beloved online. Before You Suffocate Your Own Fool Self, which is an essay collection by Danielle Evans. Burn It Down, an essay collection about female rage. Bel Canto, Bear Town, which I'm kind of saving for when the weather gets cold, and the one, which is the one I think I'm gonna go with, Big Fan by Alexandra Romanoff. I love pink and red together so much, so obviously I'm just a sucker for this cover. I'm also loving how short it is, and the best part is that this is another romance.
Okay, suggest starting on a straight stem. That way you just have a straight line and you can practice. Continue on that line and poke it back through.
Big fan of Big Fan. Not me just realizing this might be One Direction fanfic. I'm glad I picked this up because it is super short and I will be getting through it today. If I didn't have to leave in like 20 minutes to go to a book swap, I would probably sit down and finish this. You can absolutely read this in one sitting. I will have you know that I had no idea before picking this up, but this is 100% One Direction fanfic. I have to admit that one of my most chaotic traits is while I love reading, and I love reading reviews about books and watching people talk about their favorite books, I hate reading the backs of books. There's a little bit of logic there, but for the most part, it just feels like required reading. It feels like an essay or a book report, and I don't want to read that. But I don't want to read the back of the book or the inside flap. It's just none of my business. I will find out what the vibe is, figure out who I know has read it, and if I'll like it based on our taste alignment. But that's it. And that is the case for how I picked this up. This is a book that a bookseller who I admire dearly recommended very enthusiastically, and it has been sitting on my nightstand for like 2 or 3 weeks, and it starts with a B. And that's what the jar demanded. So that is exactly all I knew before picking this up, and I presume to know nothing else until now. But now, looking at the back of the book, it very clearly implies what I now know. And I have to confess that I am having a great time. Our main character is a high-profile political consultant. She has the job that I imagine half of the people on Love is Blind DC edition have. And this is all about her getting swept up by a former lead singer in a boy band. It's literally in the title. I don't know how I missed it. So I did grow up in the throes of Tumblr, AO3, and I do love fanfic. However, I will admit that I was not really a One Direction fanfic kind of girly. I never was really into fanfic that centered real people, but I completely appreciate how much of an impact One Direction fanfic has had on pop culture, and I love celebrating and being part of fandom as a whole and observing the way that fandom shapes our tastes and interests as we grow. So I am absolutely loving this, and I can just picture anyone out there who grew up reading One Direction fanfic would eat this up. It is absolutely delightful. I keep thinking of this as slow burn because I'm halfway through and things are finally starting to cook. However, this bad boy is under 200 pages. It truly feels like a slice of really well done fanfic, and I am tickled. So I am about to head to a book swap. Essentially what you do is ahead of the event, you drop off up to 10 books in exchange for tickets. So I brought 10 books and I got 10 tickets. They had to be published within the last 15 years and they had to be relatively good condition. And the idea is that you shop what everyone has donated and you get 10 new to you books to take home. So last year was kind of chaotic and the good ones went real fast. So I would probably bring my camera, but maybe film only after I have secured my 10 books, and then I will walk you through what I get. I'm picturing it like a giant reading library kind of quality of books where you have to sort of dig to get the good ones or go early to get the good ones before they're snatched. I have no idea, but my friends and I are planning on meeting for coffee ahead of time and then lining up a little early so we can have first dibs. And then I think there's a little market. So let's see what happens. And then I will come home and I will finish Big Fan. Now I still have so much of the weekend left, plus I have Monday off. So I figured I'd show you the other books that I want to read in the coming few days. And I figure I'll bring you along with me while I read 1 or 2 of these as well. So obviously I'm gonna finish Big Fan, no problem, it's super short, and then I wanna read another super short one. This is Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. This is a super short novella that I believe follows 5 night shift workers as they try to solve a mystery surrounding a hole in a graveyard over the course of a single night. So I kind of want to give it a go. I love the aesthetic and the vibes of this. It's just screaming the perfect little novella to read in October. So I kind of want to read that next. Just look at how short both of these are, like easy. Next, I want to pick up Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Because I'm allergic to reading the backs of books, I don't know anything about this. I just read Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher and loved it and want to read more by that author. And this is giving me October vibes and it seems like the right time. And the October book for the romance book club that I'm a member of is reading Given Our History. I believe this is a second chance slow burn romance that takes place in an academia setting and it just looks so fall. So yeah, these are all the books that I want to read in the next few days. These will truly take maybe a few hours. They're so short, so short. And these are both full length, but they're also relatively short. So I think that this is going to be easy. There you have it. Let's go shop for some used books at this book swap. We'll see what happens. I thought I would try to channel fall and wear a sweater, but it is 83 degrees outside, so we're still channeling summer. That's my current excuse for why I'm so behind this fall, is that it still feels like summer. I don't believe that the season has changed. Prove it. This is like if the idea of you met the TV show Scandal and it was age appropriate and didn't take inspiration from real life relationships. Plus it's just better in every way. I almost feel bad for the comparison. It's just so recent that it's hard not to make it, you know? So yeah, this is parasocial One Direction fanfic that is swoony and sweet and actually really smart. It has a lot to say about universal basic income. It even references Yule Abyss. Like, what did I just read? Why do I love it so much? And where can I get more? I also always love a smart, ambitious heroine who is building her career. And in Big Fan, Maya has come a long way from being the president of a fan club of a boy band in high school to actually helping successful presidential campaigns. In under 160 pages full of pop star swooning and really interesting conversations about UBI, this is the novella of your fanfic loving dreams. But it's also super smart and exceptionally well written. In the middle of reading, I was like, who published this and where can I get more? So I checked out 831 Stories on Instagram, and I think this is a little publishing company to watch. I think that there's some exciting things coming, and you should definitely check them out because I really like the idea of short, really well done little stories like this. And I think I will definitely be reading whatever they publish next. This was so much fun. If you're in a book slump and you want a juicy little novella to break you out of it, I think you should check this one out. I really enjoyed this. Today I have to sit down and edit some videos, so I'm going to do that. I am way behind on my content schedule. I have like 3 videos to edit and get up, so I'm going to spend the day doing just that. That's it. That's all I have planned. I'm not leaving the house. I am editing videos. I might bake something because it is the first cool day that we've had this season so far. And when all that's done, I will sit down and I will finish Graveyard Shift because it is yet again another short novella. I'm about halfway through Graveyard Shift and I'm enjoying it. It's kind of like Scooby-Doo for adults, but with like rats and fungus. I can tell that ML Rio is a pro at writing an unlikely group and an ensemble cast. In very few paragraphs from a new perspective, you really get a sense of each character, and this is just a quick revolving door of a very large ensemble cast's perspectives throughout the course of an entire night. And we're trying to solve a mystery, and it's got a really intriguing atmosphere. So great characters and an intriguing atmosphere. However, I'm halfway through and I can just tell that there's not going to be enough time to develop the plot the way that the story sort of needs. Like, I'm holding this really short novella in my hands and I'm loving the sinister atmosphere and the really interesting range of characters, but there's just no way it's going to wrap up in a satisfying manner in another like 80 pages. I could be wrong, but I'm very skeptical that there's going to be a satisfying conclusion given how much runway is left. So stay tuned, we'll see. I love the idea of a sinister grown-up episode of Scooby-Doo, and we'll see if it concludes in a way that is spooky and satisfying. It's halfway through October and I have to admit I'm having a hard time this year with getting in the mood for the Halloween spirit, but this is definitely helping to get me in the spirit, and I kind of want to hang up some spooky bats or fun Halloween decor to get my environment feeling like the vibes of this book, but with less animal cruelty and death. Well, I have a lot to get to today, so let's go get started. We actually have our first freeze warning tonight of the season, so I'm having mixed feelings about that, but it meant I got to break out my favorite fall sweater. You can't see it, but this is the fall sweater that I overwear every single season, and I wear it way too late into the season every year. So let's talk books. I finished Graveyard Shift last night, and I have feelings that I need to unpack. I have a doctor's appointment to go to here in a few, just my annual, and at least today I've got fresh hair for that, so there's that. So I don't have long to chat because I also want to get myself a little sweet treat beforehand because obviously I deserve it. Look how productive I'm being. But let's talk books really fast because I think my plan has shifted slightly. First, I finished Graveyard Shift last night and I have thoughts and opinions, and I still need to unpack those with you, but in the meantime, I think I'm going to start the audiobook for Given Our History, because I have to have that read by Thursday. I have the audiobook for it and a physical copy, so I think between those two formats, I'll be able to crank it out in no time. And then, instead of Nettle and Bone, I think I'm going to slide God of the Woods up sooner, because that is a book for 2 of my book clubs, but I wanted to save it so that it was fresh in my mind right before leaving, so I think I'm going to read that, and then I'll read Nettle and Bone. So we'll see how much of that I can get through before I run out of things to vlog. But today is fun because I took off a little early to run a couple of errands, and then tonight I'm going to my friend's poetry workshop, which is super cool. I think it's really cool that she's running this poetry collective community in town, and it's the first one that I'm going to, and I'm like excited and also nervous, and it should be fun. Okay, I have 20 minutes before my appointment, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna have time to get a sweet treat before. Oh, it's 12 minutes away. And the coffee shop I want to go to is on the way. Well, my friends, we've reached the end of this, yet again, Hot Mess Express, super fun, chaotic vlog. I had a very ambitious to-do list for the things we would accomplish, and we accomplished some of them. Let's see. Before the very long gap, we read Not Another Love Song, which I loved. Then the TBR Jar chose for me again, and I got big fan, and I was a big fan. I loved it. Honestly, so good despite it being so short, which is why in contrast, I'm really disappointed that Graveyard Shift didn't do the same thing, right? Like we didn't get the same emotional impact in the same brief little morsel, but I know it's possible, even though I'm like comparing apples to oranges here. Maya was a rising star in politics until her ex-husband's scandal derailed her career. She's ready for a fresh start with a new candidate and determined to focus on meaningful work. And she has come a long way from the teenage fangirl she used to be, from the president of the fan club to helping ensure presidential campaigns. So when Charlie, the former boy band heartthrob, and Maya's teenage crush, reaches out for for help with his new solo project, she is suddenly balancing her political career with an opportunity she can't ignore. This was miraculously less than 160 pages, but I didn't feel like I missed out on any emotional weight or gravity. It was full of pop star spooning and chats about universal basic income. There were so many cool, obscure references like to Eulabis, and I just think this is the novella of my fanfic loving dreams. It is smart and exceptionally well written, and I have my eye on this publishing house, because if there's more out there coming like this, I will be reading it. Then I read Graveyard Shift. Fittingly, I read it in an evening, which is good because the theme is like insomnia. This is a short, eerie, grown-up Scooby-Doo mystery. Just a single episode dripping with gothic atmosphere. There's eerie vibes, there's fungi, there's rats, there's grave digging. It has all the hallmarks of the vibes of Halloween. It is a delightfully creepy morsel. There's a touch of dark academia, there's a little morally gray characters. As expected, ML Rio, known for If We Were Villains, brings her signature beautiful writing and compelling character dynamics to life in a very short package. Unfortunately, the short page count meant that the mystery was super underdeveloped, and unlike Big Fan, I think it lacked some like emotional punch. The ending was so abrupt. I finished it and was like, that's it? The rest of the pages are just like an excerpt of If We Were Villains. And Miss Ma'am, you did not have any real estate to spare. Ultimately, I really enjoyed myself, but I just wish it was a little longer and I was left wanting more. But for you insomniacs out there, if you want something you can read in a single sitting to get you ready for Halloween, this is you. Then for my romance book club, I got to read Given Our History, which we all decided looks just like Gwen Our History if you just cover the dot of the I, like, do you see it? So yeah, this is Gwen Our History, and I loved this, but let me tell you what it's actually about. Clara Fernsby, a history professor, is up for tenure, and she's forced to confront her past when Teddy, her childhood best friend and first love, hotter than ever, obviously, reappears as a visiting scholar at her college. It's been a decade since they've spoken, but now, with shared office space, forced proximity, and late night project brainstorming sessions, wouldn't you know that those old feelings begin to surface? What begins as a nostalgic trip down memory lane, burning CDs and trading books at sleepaway camp, evolves into a second chance at love. I loved pretty much everything about this. I loved the flashbacks to summer camp in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I loved the academia setting with a strong-willed heroine with a lot of ambition and drive. I loved that this was basically a love letter to the millennial experience. The switching timelines were done so well. I think the author did such a great job of making the narrator feel like the age she was, and her perspective sort of reflected that. Really well done. And bonus points for the fact that it was an autumnal book with an academia setting and that they were childhood friends. If you are tired of all the hex puns in your autumn romances, and if you want something that's contemporary, then check out this very tender, heartfelt rom-com. Perfect for fans of an academia-centered romance. I'm also about halfway into God of the Woods, so you'll have to tune into my October wrap-up to see what I think of this. So far, I read a little bit about pacing issues and it being slow, and that is not something I'm running into. I am very hooked. I think with mystery especially, there's like two camps. There's the like slow, drawn out, more languid storytelling that gives you all of the details, and then there's the like fast-paced, get to it quickly, and one of them maybe buries a lot in the exposition and makes it a little trickier to guess what's happening, and the other maybe is a little bit more predictable, but you can get your fix quickly and move on. Does that make sense? And I definitely think this falls into the more exposition heavy, a little bit more taking its time, but I don't think that makes it slow or boring, at least for me. It's got my full attention. I did have a hard time at the beginning because there are so many character perspectives to understand and get into, and timelines, but I trust that it's all gonna come together. We'll see. I could be wrong. It's definitely scratching that mystery itch I had. If you made it to the end of this very chaotic, very unorganized, probably very long vlog, I think you should leave me a bat emoji in honor of my new Halloween decorations that I put up earlier today. Thank you so much for being here and following along with this journey, especially these long, rambling, slice of life sort of videos. I really appreciate it. They're really fun to make and it's really fun to share with you. So I just realized I never updated the jar with my recent purchases, so maybe we'll do that next. Thank you so much and see you soon.